The Wednesday of an NFL week is the time to turn the page. And it's now time to turn the page on Wild Card Weekend. And part of the reason why we're doing it is because the games were not so super.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad the NFL wanted to drop the super of the Wild Card Weekend moniker because the games weren't so super.
Rich, can we get the super drop with just one last time?
Would you care to guess?
I deleted it.
Would you care to guess?
Deleted it.
Would you care to guess the average margin of victory in the 4 college football playoff first round games? If you want to hearken all the way back to the end of December, the first round on campuses of the college football playoffs, and the margin of victory of 5 of the 6, removing the Commanders and Buccaneers last second 3-point margin of victory. Would you care to guess the 9 football playoff games, first round of the college football playoffs and the National Football League playoffs? Would you care to guess what that is? Chris Brockman.
I'm going to say Patrick Mahomes, 15.
Okay. Well, this is kind of like a Price is Right thing, closest without going over.
Give me my music.
Yeah, give him some music, Mike Del Tufo. Give me the music. We didn't ask you this before, but I just decided to come up with this. Thank you. Would you care to guess?
I say 18.
18. Closest without going over, TJ Jefferson, 15 and 18. The college football playoffs, and 5 of the 6 wild card round margin of victory.
14, Rich.
The winner is Mike Del Tufo. I believe Mike Del Tufo, you've won all the playoff games.
Whoa.
18.33.
Wow. Mikey,
I mean,
points
do I win both?
Per game.
I win all, right?
As a matter of fact,
It kind of seems like you should.
the Rams' 18-point victory brought the margin of victory down from 18.5 to 18.33. So we turn the page. Let's go to the divisional round. And in that regard, I've got, as you can see on the Roku Sports channel, courtesy of NFL Network Research,
So many notes.
4 different packets.
Wow.
Look at that.
Wow.
So many packets.
Of the 4 different games. Research, numbers. And guess what I'm going to do? I am now going to take the red-colored
packet.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've got, as you could see, the paperclip.
Packet?
Yeah.
Okay. It's the Kansas City Chiefs because now's the time. I
color
understand.
coordinated.
You know what? Some shows might be leading with the Dallas Cowboys coaching search. Yada, yada, yada. We'll get to that later.
A lot
of folks might want to talk about the marquee matchup of divisional playoff weekend, Bills and Ravens.
Oh, baby.
I get it. I understand it. I buy it as the marquee matchup. I understand. Part of the reason why a lot of folks want to talk about that game in the AFC is because of 2 words. Chiefs fatigue. And part of the reason why there's Chiefs fatigue is of the thick 20 pages on the Chiefs and Texans game that NFL Network Research has come up, the first 5 feature statistics about the Chiefs' dynastic run.
He'll get handled when it gets handled.
Oh, baby. That, by the way, appreciate that drop. Didn't know you were going to play it, but that was in training camp. Patrick Mahomes' response to being told that a Kermit the Frog doll dressed as him had shown up in Raiders training camp, and a rookie made the mistake of having fun with it. Yada, yada, yada. The Chiefs won 15 regular season games this year. The most ever by a team going back to back and trying to three-peat, which is where I land to start the show, because we could talk about the Eagles and the Rams. We will. Lions having their greatest regular season ever, welcoming in the upstart. Why not us Commanders? With Jaden Daniels, one of the most exciting young players we have seen in the NFL in quite some time. We will talk about that too. Bills and Ravens. You got Von Miller on this show, for crying out loud, in hour 3. We'll talk about it. But there's really only one story in the NFL. Coming into the season is how will it get handled when it gets handled for the Kansas City Chiefs to try and become the first ever three-peat champions in the National Football League history. And all they did in the regular season was win 15 games matching the uniform number of their stellar Hall of Fame, yes, Mount Rushmore quarterback. How will they do it? 15 wins, and everybody's like, they're lucky. When are they going to flip the switch? They're really not that great. 15 wins, whatever. And in that regard, the person who personifies that happens to be one of the greatest players in the history of the NFL, period, and certainly at his position, in Travis Kelce, who had, statistically, the worst year of his career. His 823 yards receiving, other than his first year in the league when he only played one single game and had 0 yards, that's his worst year. 862 in his first full year in the NFL. His 8.5 yards per reception. Only time in his career he hasn't had a double-digit number in that regard. 3 touchdowns? That's all he had. 3. I'm sure all the folks that took Kelce in the fantasy league world were like, what happened? Guess what? It's the playoffs. And what does he do in the playoffs?
Dominate.
Yes, sir. Correct. His career, 69.4 yards per game receiving in the regular season. Pop that up to 86.5 in the playoffs. 165 career receptions. That's the most ever. If he gets 343 yards receiving in these playoffs, that's a chunky number, certainly for somebody who has to play a maximum of 3 games. And 4 touchdowns in these playoffs. Not that big of a number for him. He would pass Jerry Rice for the most all-time in those categories in the history of the NFL playoffs as the greatest ever in those stats. His receptions, 165, already more than Jerry. All he needs is one more 100-yard receiving game. He breaks the tie with Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice. Jerry's eating rice.
Jerry's eating rice.
That's what Travis Kelce does in the playoffs. 13 straight games with at least 70 yards receiving in the postseason for him. That's the longest streak in the history of the National Football League. The next one is 7, and that person is currently reporting for CTESPN.
Yeah, I think he's the founder, actually.
Oh, is that right?
I think so.
My bad. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
denigrate.
Get it right, Rich.
And, of course, he and Mahomes together have had quite the connection. 17 touchdowns in his career in the playoffs, which means 2 of the touchdown passes came courtesy of Alex Smith prior to Mahomes joining. And that's more than Brady and Gronk for the most all time. Yada, yada, yada. Mahomes addressed what Kelce does once the rubber meets the playoff road.
You know, I think it's just the greats, man. They step up in the playoffs, and it's just higher intensity, and the best players and the best leaders step up and make the best plays, and he's done that. And so I expect the same from him going into this playoffs. And I think his mentality that he steps on the football field with at practice and on game day is kind of resonates with the entire team and gets everybody to play their best football, and that's what it takes in order to win championships.
That's right. It's so matter of fact, right? It's just so matter of fact. Then it makes you think they're just not going to do it, or maybe they're asleep, or they're just not going to hit that switch. Okay. Because this is what's at stake. This is what's at stake. The three-peat stuff, sure. That's clearly, I would think, motivational.
That's kind of big.
I get it.
You kind
First
of like
ever.
poo-pooed it.
No. I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm just also, I'm going one bigger. Because that would just be a feature. That would just be the lead resume item on saying the greatest dynasty ever in the history of the National Football League. The greatest to do it. And making Brockman's Brady Patriots the second best dynasty of the century.
Wait, so you think a three-peat makes them the best dynasty?
On the road
Okay.
to doing such, Brady won 3 of his first 4 Super Bowls. Mahomes has made 4 of his first 6 opportunities to make the Super Bowl, going 3-1 in them, and just like Brady in that 3 of winning his first 4 back-to-back matched that. The Brady Patriots then made only 2 Super Bowls in their next 9, but they did make a ton of AFC Championship games in a row, and also then making 4 of their next 5. Now that's the differentiator. Later on down the road, will he make 4 of 5 that late in the run? Will Andy Reid even be there? Winning 8 straight times in the divisional round to go to the AFC Championship game. The Brady Patriots made 8 straight AFC title games. That is a chunky number, except when you think that if Mahomes wins against the Texans on Saturday, that'd be 7 in a row for him. Ooh. Out the gate.
Gee.
Out the Texas Tech sitting down for a year gate. 7 AFC title games in a row. And then 1 win shy of going 5 Super Bowl appearances in his first 7 attempts. With a three-peat to boot. You're talking about greatest dynasty, like you're talking better than, name them. Just name them. Set up for it. Could you imagine when you look at these numbers for Mahomes? 89 regular season wins before the age of 29. That's 19 better than Brady. Playoff wins before the age of 29. He's already 3 clear of Brady in that regard before even taking the field against the Texans. 4 Super Bowl appearances before the age of 29. That's 1 better than Brady before even taking the field against the Texans. As many Super Bowl wins as Brady. 1 more Super Bowl MVP than Brady. 2 NFL MVPs already in his pocket before the age of 29. Brady had none. Could you imagine if Brady had not beaten Mahomes in that 1 Super Bowl that Mahomes has lost?
Yeah, we don't have to.
Correct. That's why I'm saying every single time I hear from you about Chiefs may not do it, I'm thinking you're who the hell thought anybody would be in the area code of having a shot at the Brady Belichick era and shelving it as the best dynasty of the 21st century. This is what is at stake when Mahomes and the Chiefs and Andy Reid step on the Arrowhead Field on Saturday to kick off divisional playoff weekend.
It's almost like you're saying he's under the most pressure of this playoffs.
I'm not saying that's any pressure at all. I'm saying that this is house money as far as I'm concerned for the Kansas City Chiefs. I like your attempt at flipping it, but that does, again, do you smell the fear coming from New England? And the New England portion of the Rich Eisen Show set, do you smell it?
Wow. I'm worried.
Do you smell what the Chiefs are cooking? Now, the winner of Bills-Ravens could go ahead and upset everything that I just said and hand Mahomes a rare loss in the AFC Championship game, let alone a rare home loss in the playoffs. But the Texans have to be first up, and Mahomes is 6-0 in the divisional playoff round. 6-0.
Guys, I know we're against this, Rich. I just wanted to throw this out for later in the show, Chris. You brought up dynasties. Who were the dynasties in the NFL? That's something I don't think we've ever talked about.
Well, here we go.
Later on, like,
I will. You can give me an idea right here.
Yeah.
Here we go. Because these are the last, there's a list of the only back-to-back champions in the history of the NFL and how far they went.
You got that there?
I do here.
Ooh.
This is just your way of getting the Cowboys into this first segment.
This is the NFL Network.
Not really.
Yes, it is. This is
I
the
mean, they were
NFL
gonna get
Network
in
research
anyway.
not missing. The first ever back-to-back champs, the Green Bay Packers, in attempting to go 3 in a row, missed the playoffs. The 72-73 Dolphins. We all remember they were, coming off of that perfect season. They made the divisional round and lost. The 74-75 Steel Curtain Steelers lost in the AFC Championship game. The second time they tried it in 1980, they missed the playoffs. The next team were the 49ers in 88-89. They lost in the NFC Championship game when Leonard Marshall essentially planted Joe Montana like a fern. 82-83 Cowboys lost in the same spot in Candlestick Park in a game that I was at covering it for KRCR television in Redding, California. I will never forget that game because the winner knew they were going to take Stan Humphries apart in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Your Cowboys, had they won that game, and they were close, they would have been the first ever three-peat champ, and we'd be having a different conversation today.
Well, our future coach held our star wide receiver. Everybody knows that.
That's true. I've seen Dion and Irv have arguments about that on live NFL Network television, and it's classic. The 97-98 Broncos missed the playoffs when Elway retired, and the last team to attempt it. Chris Brockman can tell you all about that divisional playoff round loss in Denver.
Yeah, Champ Bailey fumbled through the end zone.
And then here we are today. So I kind of just ran through some of your dynasties just by talking about how when you go back to back, you're part of one of the great dynasties. To be the first to ever three-peat, you are the greatest dynasty. And then in so doing, you could turn what we all believe is the greatest dynasty, the Brady Belichick era Patriots, because of how long it lasted and how even in their 9 years of not winning one, they made 2 Super Bowls and made a ton of straight AFC Championship game appearances and won 3 of their first 4 together, and then made 4 of the last 5 Super Bowls together. That's pretty great. And the Chiefs have a chance to make that the second best of this century. That's what's at stake. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.